Words are not just my playground. They are my fieldwork, my dreamscape, meticulously crafted strategies for divine's greatest intentions. And I get to exist within the lines I transcribe, documenting my deepest cries. I dance around the spaces between the letters and words to relish in my freedom and the parts of me you could never contain. The spaces that hold secrets, the words we don't speak. I will never wish to decode the sacredness of those things. Protected by mystery, silences with sounds just as loud. Listen. Listen to me if you want to know me. Listen to my whispers and mumbles in late night slumbers too. Listen to the way my body tightens, turns, and twitches. The way I can wipe tears from your face and give them back to you with newfound grace. Listen to my eyes and how they can see you in your greatest form. You are so beautiful from here. Listen to the crash in my heart when this world decays. Listen to the joy in my breath when she takes it away. Listen to my children when they have something to say. Listen to my movements and the curls in my hair. I am here to make a mark. I am made of earth and air.
I met you through the online Decolonize on Conference workshops, which felt like an incredible privilege to be able to be a part of as a white person. So I'm very grateful that you opened it up to other people when you really didn't have to. So that was very kind of you. But from that point, it seemed like that was right when it began to transition for you from organizer into this more creative role. Is that true for you? And if so,
Yes.
Is that a journey you'd be willing to share with us?
Yes, absolutely. People really don't know just how dark this year was for me. And I think the pandemic was hard on everyone in a variety of ways. It was certainly hard on me and my relationships. I think it's important to note, because it's related to this, that there was that intentional decision to open up these spaces to include white folks. And it was certainly not a decision that I made lightheartedly. I was very, very against the idea for a long time. I intentionally wanted that space to be for people of the global majority or people of color. And I think that one of the things that happened, that obviously forced things to shift, was moving things online. And, I had an increasing amount of things to say about people's relationships to social media and what was happening with our relationship with social media during this time in the pandemic. And I also didn't want to be frustrated with other activists all the time. I've been calling it like intellectual circle jerking.
Fantastic.
And it's just a lot of wordiness. I feel like a lot of people don't realize how inaccessible a lot of these dialogues are. The point of my work was having these conversations in person, having these conversations in a way that the people in the space everyone can understand, despite coming from different backgrounds and different educational backgrounds, different language access and language barriers. So there was just a lot of things that happened, in like activist relationships and personal relationships that I was seeing happening around me, that I was experiencing. And it really did bring me down to my knees in a lot of ways. And, I think I have what some folks might call an atypical or unusual or even failing relationship, some people might even say that, with my nonprofit, La Raza for Liberation, that I built on my own from scratch. And the Decolonizing Conference, which was one of our like main programs and projects that we got to fund through that nonprofit. So at the time when I started the nonprofit, I did not have nearly the same awareness about the nonprofit industrial complex and all the problems within that. Even though I started my own nonprofit, I started it because I had such horrible experiences working in nonprofits. You know, that's where I feel like I found myself with the Unconference. I was like, what was the foundation of this work? All of these challenges that the world is posing, that these circumstances are posing, that my relationships are posing, what does that do to the foundation of this work? I want more activists to really challenge themselves in that way, and basically what that means is not be afraid to like put something to bed. You know, sometimes we get so caught up in trying to fix or improve something that we lose sight in the value and even the liberation that could come from starting from scratch. Just give yourself the freedom of a white slate or whatever. Give yourself the freedom of a blank slate. Let's not say white. Of a blank slate. You know? What do you do there? You know, I'm interested to see like what comes out of it there. So again, that kind of goes into the whole artistry thing where we give ourselves those blank slates all the time, because that's just how you do it. Yeah. What do you do when everything around you is crumbling? What do you do when all there is like destruction and chaos? And I think in my own life personally, I felt like all I could do was create. There was nothing else to do but try to just create something new because everything else wasn't working anymore. So
if I didn't do art this last couple of years, I don't know how I would have made it. Because my next question is, how did you take care of yourself? And it's interesting that you're doing probably, in my opinion, one of the best self-care things you can do, which is just to create. Is that what kind of brought you out of it?
I think the more I was creating, the more I was like, wow, like I think organizers and activists really need to do this more, because it was teaching me so much about my activism, and it's still teaching me a lot about my activism as I reflect on all the work that I've done, even now that I'm taking a break. You know, I think it's not like my work isn't on my mind, especially since a lot of my creative work, you know, as you can probably tell, is very political anyway. So
and I was going to start with the song, because that's where I first was like, oh, I mean, I'm not joking. The song was not done, and I was like messaging you. Like, we need to talk. I need to interview something. We need to talk about the song. Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about the song too, but gosh, where to begin?
Where did it begin? What was that first moment of like, I'm going to create and I'm going to share this?
I guess that song like genuinely saved my life when I was in this dark place. And the beat of that song is what spoke to me.
You must not know about me. La tierra vive en mí. No, you don't wanna mess with me, 'cause I won't stop till we're free.
But yeah, I heard it and I was just like, it made me feel good. It made me feel empowered, which is something that I really needed at that time. I was kind of like, I'm just gonna write a chorus. I'm just gonna write like a melody for this beat. I'm not gonna like rap. And I don't know, the more that I like sat with it and listened to it, the song really just like literally poured out of me. Like I just ended up writing a whole song, and my resistance at that time was simply just like staying alive, to be honest. I was really struggling, and so that's kind of where the song came from. It was like, you know, don't forget who you are, and don't forget, you know, kind of why you're here. And so for me, of course, I think I get a lot of that strength from my relationship with God and the land, which for me are synonymous. And so The Land Lives in Me, which is the name of the song, but in Spanish, is really about kind of recognizing your own divinity, you know, because you are a part of the earth, that automatically makes you divine. And so for me, it was like really just trying to remember that every day. I actually managed to get to go back to my homelands, which I'm so grateful for looking back on it before all of this happened. So I was in Santiago, Chile, what's known as Santiago, Chile. And, you know, there were a lot of protests that were happening in South America at that time. That time really stayed with me because of the, not just like the resistance that I saw, but like the genuine joy that I saw in the streets. You know, how important that is to being able to like continue to resist. So yeah, so it ended up, you know, being this kind of like resistance banger. You know, I want it to have the kind of vibe of like to really like get you revved up, and
It does.
Yeah.
You succeeded.
Oh, great. We'll see how it all turns out. I'm not in a rush when it comes to my creative projects, so.
I'm definitely gonna wear my shirt. I mean, I love my shirt, which I'll put up a picture of it. It's so great, thank you. And the process working with you felt so like special. I just felt like I was definitely being focused on, and it was, the creativity was like conjured up for me.
Yeah, it was super fun. I loved it as well for that same reason. Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad that, because as a creative, it's hard to let go for another creative to kind of lead the way. And I was like, I'm just going to have to trust him. Like, he's going to have to just say, and you did. It was great. You were like, this is the shirt. I was like, okay, continue. And it is. I love it. Talking about the land is within me and how that makes you divine. I'm going to be thinking that every time I put that shirt on. Like, that shirt just got to be more magical to me. So thank you.
Yes. That's the whole idea, definitely, is for everyone to feel that, to find that and feel that.
Because everything upcycled?
Not everything, but I'm hoping to have most things be upcycled. It's a little harder with my transcendent stuff because I wanted like specific colors. Recycling and upcycling clothes is important to me because even with using like sustainable, eco-friendly companies, they're still producing like new stuff. For a long time, I've been pretty aware of kind of like clothing pollution and just how much ends up in dumps, and it just makes more sense to me to use what we already have.
I noticed right away when I first started listening to you is that you are very well connected with what a land area should be called or what it was originally called. How do you know? That feels like such a dumb question, but
No, this is a great question. There's a website. It's native-land.ca. It shows you like treaties and all kinds of things, but it'll also just show you like the name of like the original peoples of that area.
Do you know what Santiago's? Because you said now known as Santiago.
Yeah, that basically like a lot of the Chilean and also Argentinian lands belong to the Mapuche people. That kind of like the border is like kind of down the Andean mountains, but obviously that was like the colonial border, so the lands kind of extend east as well.
I love that you said like you're not in any rush and that you're just letting things flow, but it's like you're on fire right now. Like if you're not in a rush, like I don't think you could put more out anyway, because you're just in this beautiful creating space where it's just all like flooding out of you.
I didn't even realize I had written a poetry book. I just was like, wow, I have enough poetry written from this past year for a book. And when I was piecing it together, you know, it's in an intentional order, all the poems, and the book is a very, very deep, very emotional piece of myself. It was written from the onset of the pandemic to pretty much, I think it was like pretty much the end of 2020. You know, you can very much see that like what was happening in the world is reflected in the pieces. It really is kind of a good documentation of this whole transition that we've been talking about. You know, it's basically my crumbling of myself. Also the kind of like hope that comes out of realizing like, oh, everything that's crumbled actually was not serving me. And then finding strength in that. The book is very much, you know, these conversations with self, and kind of like what I discovered from these conversations with myself. And so going into, you know, these different names, KR of Earth and Air and Montañita, has been definitely, you know, evidence of like the journey, the transition that I'm going through right now. And of Earth and Air comes from a combination of things, and one of those things is, you know, I was really into astrology for a while. So my astrology chart is, funnily enough, primarily made up of Earth and Air, like zodiac signs. I feel, you know, my ancestral homelands are very mountainous, and the Andes Mountains, of course, best mountains in the world. And I really resonate with like being of Earth and Air for that reason, because I feel like, you know, mountains kind of like kiss the sky in this really beautiful way, and the sky is kind of seen as this like divine space, right? You know, it kind of led me to really identifying as a mountain in my like gender and kind of ancestral history. As soon as I thought of Montañita, I was like, that feels way more authentic. But yeah, everything is like evolving and slowly kind of building to what I think fits the best and feels right. So it's been a really cool journey.
It's a good time to ask you to introduce yourself.
Yes, at the very end. I love it. Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, my name is Montañita. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a creative and a consultant, and I'm mostly a writer, but I also am a musician. I am exploring sharing my work through fashion and film. I'm Andean, and I've moved around a lot trying to find home, only to realize that you can only build home. Yeah, and shifting my relationship with migration a lot too. What my relationship to it is going to be now, especially as someone who identifies as a mountain. Mountains don't really move in that way.
Well, and mountains usually stretch a long distance. So maybe it's not so much that you're moving all over the place, you're just expanding into your space.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Taken up so much of your time. Thank you so much.
This has been great.
This has been so fun. Thank you. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks. I
All
will
right,
talk to you
take
later.
care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.